Okay, folks, good morning and welcome to Swing Trading Today. This is Bob Desmond, and it is 5:01 in the AM Eastern Standard Time. Let's get to the headlines. Good morning, Oliver. Last night I was watching the futures, and all of a sudden I saw them just tip over, and I was wondering what the heck was going on. And I had to go to Twitter to get an idea. And there's rumor out there, and I want to really highlight this rumor that Kim Jong-un over in North Korea was ill or had died, had brain damage, whatever. It was inconclusive reports. It's still inconclusive what's going on over there. And it does matter. It's important. If he goes, who fills the void? Is it going to be his sister? Who knows? But that's one of the largest militaries in the world, possibly with nuclear weapons. They're launching missiles constantly. And whoever steps into that position is going to have to show strength right away. And Lord knows what that means, and especially in this critical time. So this is out there. So let's get to the pre-market activity. Now, I titled this commentary, Swing Trading Today, Deflation or Inflation. And it's a struggle. Yesterday, we had crude prices, light sweet intermediate crude, the front month contract, which expired yesterday, go negative. You had to pay not to take delivery. Think about that. So how are we performing this morning? We are breaking down. Now, historically, the Federal Reserve likes to say, you know what? We don't like to include food and energy in our inflation numbers. That's why you have a core number out there, because they say it's too volatile. But this time around, all of a sudden, in the interest of inflation, what they're going to need to do is they're going to have to go bail out the junk bond market and the frackers, especially down in Texas, because this is just an absolute disaster. And I don't expect much of the new front month contract, which is the June contract, which expires on the 18th of May. We have broken down below support. So I've never bought into the Federal Reserve's notion that energy is not an indicator of inflation or deflation. I believe it to be, in this case, a measure of deflation, especially when people aren't taking delivery of oil. What don't you need? You don't need transportation. The list goes on of what you don't need. The only thing that you do need are storing facilities or storage facilities, and that space is being taken up rapidly. So you are seeing inflation in a very micro area of the economy. So how is that boding for the U.S. dollar? The dollar is holding in there. We remain up. So as long as the dollar holds that monthly breakout we've spoken about many times before, the threat of inflation is still on the back burner. I'm a firm believer that we're going to get inflation, possibly hyperinflation. I don't want to jump on the bandwagon of hyperinflation guaranteed, but it's certainly going to be out there with the money that the Federal Reserve is printing. And now with helicopter money and more to come, that's certainly a threat that's out there. Now, are we seeing deflation or inflation in the price of gold? Well, gold, no doubt, has held its own ground in this sell-off. We were down much further overnight we have rallied back, not much further. We were down overnight. We rallied back and recaptured some of those gains. This alert that I had set up here at the 1701 spot 50 mark, that was not triggered. But what you're seeing set up here on gold is, I believe, possibly, I think this can go either way, possibly a head and shoulders setup. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Note the lower high here on price, and this is why I have this alert set. This is like a tripwire. If it breaks, more than likely we're coming down to this neckline here in red, and you could see gold correct. Now, again, longer term, far more bullish than bearish longer term on gold. But in the short term, the shock of deflation is certainly possible, and I'll point only to the price of West Texas Intermediate crude. Drilling down to an hourly chart. And the reason why I'm speaking so much about gold, and in a moment the miners, and in a moment again silver, is because we sold our gold mining position last week for a profit, along with silver for a profit. And now we're looking to buy back in, ideally at lower prices. So here's an hourly chart of gold, and you can see head and shoulders setup, lower highs, lower lows. The question is, do we break? Or do we break out? Taking a look, going back to a 4-hour chart, taking a look at silver. Silver, when I last looked, was underwater still overnight. Now you could argue on this 4-hour chart, we have a cup, handle, we're getting ready for a breakout here. I would buy into that all day long. But as we drill down, you can see, even on RSI, lower highs, lower lows on price, lower highs, lower lows. Now, I will say this. We had broken out yesterday on RSI. We're pulling back. We're holding support on RSI. That's not enough. Every time we've rallied these past couple of bars, you've seen selling into this strength, 1-hour chart. And we continue to see weakness here. So we're not ready to buy back into the silver trade yet. But I'm chomping at the bit. Now, good morning, Nicholas. Now, taking a look at nat gas prices. They surged yesterday, but we're correcting today. No great shock here. We became somewhat overbought relative to the third standard deviation Bollinger Band. We're pulling back, holding support. I mean, could there be a trade to the long side here setting up? Sure. But if we break the support level, you can easily see lower lows. I want to go to a weekly chart really quick. We're flirting with a breakout on a weekly basis. Note how you have this 20-period moving average in blue, which is declining still, acting as resistance. So we'll keep an eye on nat gas. But right now, especially in light of the economy, I just can't take the speculative risk of getting long of nat gas just yet, especially after the rally we've seen. And in the very short term, the question is, do we hold one spot 875 on the spot price? Let's take a look at equities. Again, these are all 4-hour charts. Now, when I went to bed last night, we were weak and getting weaker. We have bounced back somewhat this morning. But you can see, here's the breakdown right here, below this line in red. And at current, what we're doing is we're struggling to try to recapture that support level. We remain down spot 44% on the morning. So I don't have to look at this all morning long. All right, so we'll just set up an alert here, letting me know if we recapture the support level or potentially recapture that support level. And there's still a good chance that we may, because they're not going to let this market just simply drop. I'm still of the mind that they're going to try to rally the heavily shorted small caps. Let's go to the small caps. I know they were a little bit weak overnight. And I still think that they're going to try to rally the banks so that they can offer secondary shares to free up liquidity for the next round of losses next quarter. Ugh. Okay, so here are the small caps. Wow, not looking good this morning. All right, so we were in a trading range. We broke out yesterday, and this is why it always pays. Wait till the final minutes of trade. Don't sit in front of your computer all day long. The most dangerous time is between 10:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. That's when the market is most manipulated. They broke it out. What do? They allowed it to fail, broke back down. What happened? Breakout point failure or a bull trap. When that happens, at a minimum, you're going to retest the lower band of support, strong probability of breaking support. What happened? We broke support. So the small caps are not setting up well this morning. Down over 1.5% and getting weaker. Hey, Sam, good morning. How you been, pal? How are things over in Italy? Let's take a look at... They're doing okay, Sam. Doing okay. You know what? Relative to many people out there, I'm doing outstanding relative. So, thank you for asking. A lot of tensions here in the EU, I bet, huh? Your gut intuition, will Italy be a part of the EU in 10 years? And second question, will there be an EU in 10 years? Bitcoin. Good to hear, Sam. Bitcoin did flash a breakout point failure yesterday. We broke out. What happened? Rolled back over. I'm not a big believer in shares just simply recovering from this type of price action. And we know that Bitcoin does well in an inflationary environment. So if you believe that we're in a deflationary environment, well, you're going to want to avoid Bitcoin. But if you believe that we're in an inflationary environment, look to buy Bitcoin on a rally back above 70.43. Nicholas, in France, we are pulling out the blueprints for the guillotine just for good measure. For who, though? Sam, if they don't manage to do the shared debt, there will be no EU in 10 years. Yeah. And that's also going to be deflationary because that's going to keep a bid under the U.S. dollar. Very interesting. Very, very interesting what's playing out. As a matter of fact, let's check out the euro. To me, this is all very fascinating. You're just seeing a realignment of the world order right now. I mean, that little shenanigans, that little trick that the Saudis and the Russians pulled, that little spat, quote-unquote spat, was a direct torpedo. While we were weak, they launched a torpedo at our fracking sector, and they scored a direct hit. FL Boomer. Good morning. Stopped here before my workout. Did you start? No. Is your gym open? Where are you from? Florida? I'm assuming with the FL? I don't know, Sam. I don't know about China being the next world leader. I started shorting China yesterday. Not heavily, but I think that they shot themselves in the foot. I think they lack innovation, and you're going to probably see a capital flight out of that country. Oh, garage gym. Okay. Yeah, I have my Bowflex, and I have my jump rope, and I have a halfway working elliptical. But to answer your question, no, I've been lazy, to be honest with you. I've been using it as an excuse. I see. Oh, you're near Tampa. That's where my brother lives. Love that area. My mom used to live down in Largo. If property prices get to a level that are reasonable, I want to look for a place over by on Clearwater, maybe St. Pete, one of the two. But on the beach, something nice. Okay, I should have bought back in 2008, 2009. Would have done well with that trade. All right. Where was I going here? I got off track. Oh, and I want to go over Works. We opened up a position. I didn't go over it last night on Market Wrap. I forgot all about it. Oh, the euro. 4-hour chart. Man, there's been nothing happening here. Let's clear all this off. Start fresh. Wow, talk about indecision. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. There is nothing happening here. They keep trying to break it out, and it keeps getting rejected. Very, very interesting. What are you doing? What are you doing, Bob? Have more coffee. Okay, there you go. All right, let's drill down here. All right, so we're in the apex of a very, very tight wedge formation. So we're either breaking out heavy or breaking out heavy very, very soon. Probably today. The latest tomorrow, I would imagine. RL, good morning. Riverview, that's north, huh? Pasco County? Okay. Never heard of it. A buddy of mine bought a place over in uh, Crystal Creek, Crystal River. That's north of Tampa. Good morning, Danny. All right, let's go to. Let's see if support. My alert for gold just blew off. Let's go back to gold. Something's happening there. Yep, we broke support. Look at this. This is dropping like a rock. Look at this. Major break on gold, folks. Major break. We were up only minutes ago. Now we're down. Just shot 20, 22.50 now. Crashing on gold. 27. 20. Wow. What the heck just happened here? Let's check out the stock market futures, and then we'll go to the headlines. If anybody's has something from, good morning, from Danny, from Israel. How's everything going over there, health-wise? Good, I hope. So we're seeing some real serious selling on spot gold, folks. This is either technical selling or some sort of news-driven event. I don't know whether they've had time to post anything here. Nothing yet. $5.08. That's mining standards. It's nothing. If anybody has any news that they could share, that would be great. Yeah, Sam, I'm going to circle back to oil because that could be a driver of this sell-off. I'm going to go back. Danny, I'm sorry to hear about those deaths, but I'm glad everything's going slightly better for you folks. I'm going to go back to the S&P 500. I'm going to try to track what's going on here as best as possible. I suspect that it probably has to do with the oil markets. Let's go back to light sweet crude, which is getting clobbered. We have RSI on a 15-minute basis at, let's call it 6. It's got a 5 handle. Let's call it 6. And this is what I was worried about. This is why I titled this Inflation or Deflation. This crash in oil prices, I suspected was going to be deflationary, and I think that's what we're getting right now. Let's check out. We should get support right here on light sweet crude at around just above 15 on the June contract expiring on May the 18th. So while this says June, this is the front month contract expiring next. The May's expired yesterday. That's why you saw a negative print. I think it's FL. I think it's volatility due to oil and a deflationary shock. Let's check out silver really quick. Try to validate that. Yeah, look at this. Silver really getting hammered at current. We'll be down below 15 in short order. Look at this. Silver crashing. What happened yesterday and probably what will happen today will be historic. We're watching it at current. Let's go to the S&P futures. S&Ps are weakening up here. We added to shorts yesterday. We'll be looking to add more to shorts today. if in fact we do not recover and we break. We're down just shy of a percentage point. Nothing major on the S&Ps considering how far we've come. Now the Russell E-minis, they are down 2%. All right, let's see what's going on in Nat Gas. Is Nat Gas holding gains? Believe it or not, it is. It is. Talk about relative strength. Nat Gas showing some cojones this morning, despite the fact that it's down. Will we see a retest of the lows? And if yes, when? I think that, Danny, it's a great question. So, you always have the Fed put that's out there. Do I believe that we're going to see a retest of the lows? Yes, I do. I've always been steadfast in that. Did we re-short too early? Yes, and that's akin to being wrong. Were we disciplined by not overly shorting the market? Did we nibble? We did the right thing. So we were able to carry our position. And then for the first time in a week, we were able to add more to that short position yesterday as we saw weakness in the market. So when will it happen? I think it's going to be probably a bit more gradual than it was the last time, because the big boys have had the opportunity to raise liquidity. You probably have less margin debt, and the need to sell everything right away may be alleviated. So the question of are we going to trigger those limit down orders as we've seen time and time again over the past month? Well, do I expect to see that resume again? Probably from time to time, but not as frequently as the first time around, because that was a shock. And I think the Federal Reserve is far more activist this time around than what they were back in the financial crisis. Let's go back to oil. Wow. We broke through that support level. We're right there at support. Question is, do we bounce or do we close? Looks like we're going to bounce here. Let's take a look. Oh, we just saw some real serious selling. Wow. Wow. Look at this. If we didn't see a negative print on the front month contract yesterday, I would say that we have to bounce here. But, I wouldn't want to go out on a limb right now. Who would have thought that you can go negative on an oil contract? Unheard of. Absolutely historic. Not that we're there yet. But you would think that with RSI on a 15-minute basis with a 4 handle, that you'd want to step in here and at least begin nibbling and try to take advantage of a short squeeze. But I wouldn't take that risk. I'm sure some will. Five-minute chart. I don't like to get this granular. Look at this. 5-minute chart. We have a 2 handle on RSI. Incredible. Let's go back to gold really quick. Gold has rebounded a little bit here. We were down around 27. We're seeing a pop higher now. But I think that longer term, remember earlier, for those that weren't here, we were talking about a head and shoulder setup on the chart of gold on a 4-hour basis. And here's your left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Here's your neckline. And we're flirting with a breakdown at current. Silver. We have broken support. Silver's very, very weak. We're just barely holding on to 15 now. Do I think that we'll see a fifth package from the Fed? Probably. For gold and silver to rally, can fear overtake fundamentals? I think that the dollar at current will probably benefit the most from fear. We just broke 15. We now have a 14 handle, back above 15. We're probably going to trade down here. We're seeing 14 again on silver. So silver's really taking it on the chin this morning. Gold hasn't broken yet. Let's circle back to the dollar. Dollar catching a bid. Euro. Also catching a bid. Off the lows of the session. Bitcoin. Is threatening to break down below support. Bitcoin does not do well in a deflationary environment. I would avoid Bitcoin. Yeah, when the Fed becomes impotent is when the dollar corrects and nobody wants the dollars that they're printing. That's when they become impotent. And once we see inflation rear its head, then what's the Federal Reserve going to do? Print more dollars and throw gasoline on the fire? And that's when the chickens come home to roost here in the United States. And that's what I fear most, especially when bond prices fall as well. Let's go back to the S&P futures. And while I do that, if I could ask you folks, if you haven't already done so, can you smash that like button? I'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right, so the E-minis continue to weaken up here. And we spoke about this earlier. We broke down overnight. They attempted to try to recapture support. They are failing. Again with the Russell. The Russell is now down a little bit more than where we were before. Firmly over 2% now. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that, Sam. All right. It seems to be quieting down here a little bit on this sell-off. Let's check out IBM. Very disappointing numbers out of IBM yesterday. They appeared ready to go back down into free fall. I want to take a look at Boeing as well. Boeing continues to see cancellations of orders. I mean, these are our premier companies. Let's check out bond prices. Bonds are surging. The bull market is alive and well in the bond market. Let's check out the NASDAQ 100, of which we are short. Yeah, they're holding up the Nasdaq 100. I mean, you have the S&P 500 down over a percentage point, the Russell down 2%, yet the Nasdaq 100 down only a third of a percentage point. But here's the problem for the Nasdaq 100. Lower highs, and we broke down overnight. And very similar price action to what we saw on the S&P futures, where they tried to recapture support after breaking. I think that we fail here, and we move lower. Okay. Let's circle back to the futures. Russell bounced back a little bit. Let's check out oil. We have to watch oil. All right, so we're seeing a bounce back slightly here. Wow, we hit a 12 handle on oil. Since the last time we were at this chart, we hit an 11 handle on oil. That's where we opened up yesterday on the front month May contract, and it closed negative. All right, some buyers are coming in here. You're watching history here, folks. I don't like USO. USO rolls over their contracts from month to month. And from what I understand, and I would ask that you validate this, but from what I understand, USO makes up for 1/3 of the contracts for the for the June contracts. So that's a lot of oil. So I wouldn't want to be long of the USO. Yeah, look at this morning. Getting destroyed. I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. The USO is in a lot of trouble here. This is, the Federal Reserve is going to need to do something today. Not that they should. Gasoline prices. Again, this is the deflationary story we're talking about here. Let's check out home heating oil. Where's my home heating oil? All right, I'm not going to waste time here. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. I don't have home heating oil up here. I don't know the contract symbol. But you can bet that the derivatives are taking it on the chin. All right, let's do one last circle back here, and I'm going to sign off. S&P futures rallied back some. down now, spot 8-9%. Crude prices, light sweet crude, struggling with a 14 handle. Gold now down $21 per share, threatening to break down below the neckline of this head and shoulder setup. So the commodity sector is under a lot of pressure today. The Russell down 1.87%. Silver has popped here a little bit, but still very, very weak. We've recaptured the 15 mark. All right, folks, this is going to be a very, very long morning. I would expect some sort of an announcement out of the Federal Reserve at some point in time today, because this price action, I think $1.5 billion alone last week went into the USO. So you're going to have your billionaires out there crying their eyes out to Treasury and the Federal Reserve looking for a bailout. All right, with that, folks, I'm going to sign off here. I'm going to say everybody have a profitable trading day and be well.